That's really.
Hello and welcome to Shaka Extra Time, a show that comes to you every Tuesday. Joining me on set is SHAKA SSALI himself, aka the Kabale Kid. Hello, Shaka.
Hello, Paul.
How are you?
I remain simple, easy, and awesome.
With your incredibly looking, gorgeous shirt.
Guess who is talking? What about you, man?
Okay, today we'll be talking about a wide range of issues, and we'll, for the first time, bring in a surprise guest who is going to interact with us on Shaka Extra Time. But before we go there, let's maybe start in Rwanda. Something remarkable, Shaka, happened in Rwanda. They, for the first time in so long, they opened a smartphone manufacturing plant in Rwanda. What a remarkable achievement on behalf of Rwanda.
I think that Rwanda deserves to be congratulated for obviously, coming up with that kind of effort, because the last time I checked, up to now, there has not been a single country on the African continent that was in fact manufacturing those types of things, those types of important gadgets. The only countries I know of which have something to do with those types of gadgets, and that is simply assembling. You're probably talking about Algeria, you're talking about Egypt, you're talking about Ethiopia, and I think South Africa.
But there are people who also say that what is happening in Rwanda is as more of assembling, not really manufacturing.
Well, that is what they say, but Paul, I have often said that when it comes to opinions, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But when it comes to facts, that one, you do not have different sets of different facts. They are facts. Well, and I think from the story that I was able to see, it makes a very significant difference between what they call manufacturing, which apparently is happening in Rwanda, and assembling, which I said has actually is going on in Algeria, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, and I think South Africa.
Maybe I could also add that in 2012, I covered a young man from Congo, Brazzaville, by the names of Varon Manku, who is arguably Africa's Steve Jobs, who started a cell phone and tablet manufacturing company in Congo, Brazzaville, that, by the way, is programmed in local languages, so it has access. It can be accessed by a lot of young people. But maybe what is interesting in Rwanda is that they're actually making those phones for him. He couldn't keep up with the demand, so he had to maybe solicit the expertise of Chinese to help him. Yeah.
But the other thing that I think we should also really be very clear about, we are talking about smartphones.
Correct.
Not simply or just phones.
No, he was doing smartphones. Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yes, smartphones and smart tablets.
But it was like a sort of individual effort from the way you have been able
since then he has raised enough money to actually go public, because when I talked to him in 2012, that's how many years ago, he had at least, when I talked to him, he had sold about 500,000 units.
It's very interesting, by the way, that the brain is behind this in Rwanda. The man whose name I saw,
Ashish Taka.
I've
interviewed him several times, yeah.
Yeah, the last time I checked, I thought he was, in fact, a Ugandan citizen. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely correct.
Which means that he basically found, environmentally and commercially friendly environment in Rwanda for him to do that, because he could have actually done it in Uganda, which, even in terms of population, in terms of the numbers and what have you, say, larger market.
Yeah, he seems to have a softer spot in Rwanda. He moved actually most of his holdings, company holdings, to Dubai and Rwanda. So I think it's not surprising that he decided to launch that manufacturing factory out there.
So he probably got what you would say friendly sort of incentives. Yeah, interesting.
And today, for the first time, I told you earlier that we have a surprise guest. So we are going to go to Mona in Germany, who has been a long time fan of Shaka Extra Time. Mona, welcome to Shaka Extra Time.
Hello, Shaka and Paul.
Hello, how are you?
And this is Mona. This is Mona Nambalirwa from Dorsten, German, North Rhine-Westphalia.
Hello, Mona.
Your show is hello. It's so educative and inspiring. But I have a burning question with me.
Go for it.
Despite the fact that Africa is rich with every natural resource, why is it that most of the African population, we are below poverty line?
It's a very interesting question, Mona, and I think that actually, you know, Paul and I have actually been asking that question, and we've also been asking that type of question on different editions of Straight Talk Africa. Because let's face it.
It bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
It bothers me a lot. I see we have a lot of natural resources, but our people are so poor.
Well, is it possible that we are probably talking about a sort of what would be characterized by people as a leadership deficit? We definitely need a sort of leadership that is visionary, just like the founding fathers in the 1950s and 60s who helped us to end colonialism, as it were, so that African countries could regain political independence from the former European powers. So we probably, in this particular case, really need a legitimate, genuine, you know, kind of like a leadership, really, a new breed of African leaders who can lead the way and liberate our people, because as you say, Mona, Africa, when you think about it in the context of resources, it is probably the richest on this planet Earth. And yet when you look at the quality of life of the African people on the continent, they are pretty much behind everyone else, really. The question is why?
Shaka, let me do a quick follow-up here. You talk about leadership as one of the key things that maybe we need on the continent, but we're talking about Rwanda. Kagame displays a perfect example of leadership. He has championed his country as a tech hub for Africa. Would that be, to his credit, a lot of people go to Rwanda, they're transferring skills there, they're taking these tech companies to Rwanda. So wouldn't that be part of the solution that we are looking for?
It would, but we probably be talking about what we would say in terms of economics and development, a sort of superstructure. What is essentially needed is an infrastructure. And I'm not simply talking about roads or bridges and what have you, but I'm talking about a democratic infrastructure, an idea that is, for example, inclusive, that does not leave anyone behind. And that when you talk about that type of infrastructure, you're talking about the one that has the ability to rally people, to mobilize people, organize them in a disciplined manner, in a very smart manner, in a way that at the end of the day, you are able to deliver what is called social, economic, political justice for everybody. One of the reasons why, for example, the United States of America, one of the reasons why the experiment here succeeded in terms of making the United States, despite the fact that it does not have the largest population on this planet Earth, and yet it boasts the single largest economy, is largely because it is a nation that is built on the basis of ideas, ideas that work, not blood, not color, not religion, but ideas, ideas which are inclusive, ideas that do not leave anybody behind. The United States, I have to say, is not perfect, is not a perfect union. It has a lot of problems and what have you, but it has the ability, it has the social, economic, political shock absorbs that help it somehow figure out a way of making sure that it works. I hear people talk about how democracy is not suited for Africa, for example, because those people say that it is a European or a European American thing. On the contrary, democracy does not belong to any particular geographical location. It does not belong to any particular racial group. It does not belong to any particular ideology or religion. It is a universal value. And I frankly do not see why we cannot, as Africans, borrow from those countries on this planet Earth that have figured it out and that it works for them. Look at the Scandinavian countries, for example. When you look at the United Nations Human Development Index, you find that most countries that actually score very, very highly, they are from the Scandinavian countries. They are Norway, they are Denmark, they are Sweden, you know, those types of countries. And they provide one of the best quality of lives anywhere on the Earth planet. And it's not about blood, whether you have blue blood or red blood, everybody has red blood.
Yeah, let me do a quick follow-up from David Onserio Monda. He says, Shaka, you've given President Kagame some credit for bringing these tech companies to Rwanda. But one thing that you haven't talked about is how does Kagame negotiate a peaceful transition to democracy when a free, fair, and credible election would certainly hand over power to his minority?
A very good question indeed, and it's probably not as simple as it is, because if it was very simple to answer, I would like to think that by now it would have been not only been answered in Rwanda, but it probably would have also been answered in the neighboring countries of Uganda, of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo, when you talk about Africa being endowed with wealth, you're talking about the epicenter of wealth.
But Democratic Republic of Congo just had a peaceful power transfers.
Well, unfortunately, Paul, I'm not that very optimistic, probably as optimistic as you. The last time I checked, the Democratic Republic of the Congo probably is only at best democratic in a name. But when you come to the manner in which that particular country is organized, it leaves a lot to be desired.
But in fairness to the Democratic Republic of Congo, you can't compare it with Uganda or Rwanda, for example. At least for them, they have set a precedent. They have said, you know what, we've had enough, and it's about time the president, the incumbent president, handed over power to an opposition leader.
We give them credit, I think, where it is deserved. I think they have done that, except that someone will come and tell you, yes, Did they have, in fact, an election? Yes, they did have an election. But there are people who say actually that that election did not meet what you would call the international democratic threshold. That in fact that election is a type of process that at the end of the day delivered a Felix Tshisekedi as the president. But some people say when you look at that presidency of Felix Tshisekedi, he looks like a man who has a rank, who has a position, but does not seem to have the authority to make things move.
Let's go back to Germany, to our surprise guest in Germany. Mona, you live in Europe. You are in a country that is arguably the largest economy in Europe. What do Africans make of, or Africans in the diaspora there, what do they make of the African